Hello, divas, and welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about literally anything that I want to, but mostly books. This year so far has been a really good reading year for me. I think I've read about 40 books-ish, which is like the most that I have consistently read in like a really, really long time. But unfortunately, I've been in a crazy reading slump recently, mostly due to the fact that A, I just moved, but also B, this semester is kicking my ass. And I'm an English major, so when you're reading a lot for your English classes, you don't really want to read casually. I know it's kind of a weird time to do like a favorite books of 2024, but I just wanted to point out some highlights for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I want to try and pull myself out of this reading slump that I'm in by talking about some of my favorite books that I've read this year. I obviously also want to give you guys recommendations and also just yap about the books that I've loved. And this will also kind of be like a sneak peek at my end of the year ranking. But without further ado, let's get into my favorite books of 2025 so far. Also, just a disclaimer, these aren't in any particular order. I didn't want to rank them because, again, I'm probably going to do an end of the year ranking video. I just kind of like pulled out the books from my shelf that have really stood out to me this year. First up, I have kind of a controversial one, and that is Intermezzo by Sally Rooney. Personally, I loved this book. I thought that it was absolutely fantastic, but I do understand if you did not enjoy it or have zero interest in reading it. This is one of those books that I completely and wholeheartedly understand the critiques against it. However, I disagree with them. This is quite long, and for me, it was hard to get through, not because of the language particularly, but just because I was in a rough period of my life. But I never felt frustrated with myself for not getting through this quicker. I really just felt like I was living with these characters, and that's really what you do throughout the book. There's not a lot of plot in here. It's very character driven. You're just kind of living with them and their emotions and their feelings and their situations. It follows Peter and Ivan, who are brothers, and their dad recently passed, and it literally just follows the aftermath of that. It explores grief, it explores love, it explores familial relationships as well as romantic ones. This book got me a few times. I don't cry super often to books, but I did cry twice during this. I really, really enjoyed this. I think I am a little bit biased because I have the UK cover and the US cover is ugly as fuck. So I'm very happy that I have the UK cover, and I think that that did change my perception of this a little bit. But I also just generally had a good time. It is a little bit dense, but I don't think that that is a bad thing in any way. I think that it's one of those books where, like, if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. And if you don't get it, that's totally okay, and I understand you, but I get it, and I love it. I feel like I wasn't really selling you guys on this, but also, like, it's Sally Rooney. If you like Sally Rooney, I think you'll enjoy this. If you don't like Sally Rooney, I don't think that you'll enjoy this. And I'm not even a Sally Rooney defender. I hated Normal People with a deep and burning passion, but this this was incredible. I don't think it's as good as Conversations with Friends, but I think it's up there. I think it's really, really good. Next up, I have Several People Are Typing. This follows a guy named Gerald who basically gets stuck in his computer and can only communicate through Slack messages. So it's told entirely through text, which makes it extremely easy to read. I read this in one sitting and it was just a complete breeze. I loved it. I had so much fun with it. I would highly recommend this if you're trying to get out of a reading slump. Again, it's wildly easy to read. It's extremely engaging. It's a very fun plot, and there are a lot of really funny moments. I also think that it's a very rereadable book. There's a lot of things that I didn't quite pick up on or I didn't quite understand, but I think I would give this another read in a heartbeat. I really don't have a lot of critiques about this book. Again, I just think it's extremely entertaining. It's extremely readable. I don't think I wouldn't recommend this to anybody. It's It's just a fun book. Now, I don't want to spend too much time on this next one because it's fucking Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I mean, like, what can I say about Frankenstein that hasn't been said before? I read this specifically for a class last semester, and I wasn't particularly expecting to enjoy it, but it blew me away. It's so smart, it's so captivating, it's so intelligent and dense, yet still extremely readable. Mary Shelley is putting so much in this book. It's genuinely impressive how it's only like a little bit over 200 pages. The monster is such a good villain. But so is Frankenstein. Frankenstein is also such a good villain. I also love this copy. This isn't the copy that I read. I had to hunt to find a special edition of the 1818 version because I really wanted a beautiful cover since I had to return mine. And I will say, if you're going to read Frankenstein, read the 1818 edition. Do not read the 1836 edition. There's not a whole lot of changes, so like it's not the biggest deal in the world, but read this version. What can I say about Frankenstein that hasn't already been said? Next up, I have Harriet Tubman Live in Concert by Bob the Drag Queen. I bought this specifically just because I'm a huge fan of Bob the Drag Queen, and I wasn't expecting anything super crazy because in my mind, this was just a celebrity book. But I was really, really impressed with this book. I had a lot of fun with it. The concept of this book is famous historical figures are coming back to life in our modern period, and nobody really knows why or how, they just are. And one of these people to come back is Harriet Tubman. She calls upon Darnell, who used to be a really big famous hip-hop producer but kind of had a fall from grace a little bit. She calls Darnell and she says, I want you to produce a hip-hop rap album for me. It's really interesting. You get to learn a lot about Harriet Tubman as an individual, but you also get to learn a lot about Darnell, who I found his story to be really fascinating and really compelling. It's really funny. I read and listened to the audiobook of this, and the way that Bob narrates this is just an absolute joy. It's so fun to read. I don't think that it's like the best book ever written, but I think that it's thoroughly entertaining. Again, it's wildly readable. It's like 15 chapters and a little bit over 200 pages. If you're a fan of Bob the Drag Queen, definitely give this a shot. But also, if you just think that this concept sounds interesting, 100% give it a shot. It definitely lives up to the concept. I had a lot of fun with this. It has a really nice balance between being funny and an interesting story, but also being a little bit more intellectual and dense, which I really appreciated and I had a really good time with. Next up, I have The Golem of Brooklyn, which is another just really funny, wildly entertaining, extremely readable book. Basically, in Jewish folklore, there is this creature that is typically made out of mud or clay by a rabbi and then is brought to life to protect the Jewish people. And this follows a high school art teacher who gets really stoned one day and just makes one. Again, it's just a wildly entertaining book. It's an extremely evocative concept that the book definitely lives up to. You learn a lot about Jewish history and Jewish folklore. One of the reviews on the back says, it's a devastating romp through history and a bonkers road trip through America. And that is exactly how I would describe it. It's just a really good, fun, interesting time that I would highly, highly recommend. I had a lot of fun with this one. Next, I have The Rachel Incident by Caroline O'Donoghue, which is not a 5-star book to me, but it is one of my favorite books of all time. Does this book have its issues? Sure, but do I really care? No, not at all. I don't really want to spoil anything about this, so I'll keep the summary brief. This follows Rachel, who has a bit of a crush on her professor, and her best friend James organize this book signing event to get her to seduce him. And then shit gets crazy. If I had to use one word to describe this book, it would be chic. I just think that it is a really fun, chic time. It feels like a good friend that you haven't seen in a really long time, filling you in on all of the drama that has happened in her life. There's twists and turns, but they never feel cheap. They always feel purposeful. They always feel like they have meaning. And it always segues into the next point that Caroline O'Donoghue is trying to make. I just think that it's a good ass time. It's a fun ass time. I literally have an extra copy of this just to give to people so that they can borrow it, so that I can keep. What the fuck was that? Hello? I literally have an extra copy that I just give to people so that they can read it and I can still have my own copy. I think that if I had to choose a book that represents not only my taste in literature, but also me as a person, I would easily choose The Rachel Incident, 100% without a shadow of a doubt. It's kind of my personal mission to get as many people as possible to read this book. So if you're gonna choose one book from this video to pick up and give a shot, choose this one. Next up, I have Milk-Fed by Melissa Broder. This follows Rachel, me talking about 2 books in a row where the main character is Rachel, hello, who ends up meeting Miriam, and Rachel is just so entranced by Miriam, and it just follows them and their relationship. I'm oversimplifying this by an exponential extent because part of the fun of reading this is how compulsive it is and how you don't really know what's going to happen next. I knew way more than I would have liked to going into this book. And part of Melissa Broder's writing style is just that she's able to make everything seem so important and so massive and so life-threatening almost. I think that's something that I genuinely really appreciate about Melissa Broder's writing. I struggle with OCD, and so reading these characters who are so obsessive and so compulsive, I just have never felt more seen than when I read a Melissa Broder book. And Milk-Fed is just by far her best. It's my favorite. It's not even a question. It's a very readable book. It's under 300 pages and the chapters are so short, so you just want to keep going. I had a great time with this. I loved it. I really love Melissa Broder's writing style. I have read the other 2 Melissa Broder books, The Pisces and Death Valley. Didn't love them as much. This is by far my favorite, but if you want to hear my thoughts on those, wait until the end of the year, where I do my end of the year wrap up. Lastly, in my physical books that I have Earthlings by Sayaka Murata. This is another book that I'm not going to talk too much about because I want to do an entire video dedicated to Sayaka Murata. But all I'll say about this is I love it so much, I got it tattooed. Tattoo tour, hello, look at this little guy. I mean, come on. Again, part of the fun of reading this is just seeing what's going to happen next, so I don't want to spoil too much. Basically, this follows Natsuki, who thinks that she is an alien. And her family go on this trip to this huge family house in the middle of nowhere, and shit kind of hits the fan. And it follows her as a child and the fallouts of that event, as well as her adulthood. And it takes a crazy turn in literally every single chapter, but specifically in the last chapter. My god, just my god. The only other thing I'll say about this is dark, this is disturbing, this is very fucked up. If you know that you're not really into those types of books, I wouldn't recommend this. There are other Sayaka Murata books that I would recommend. Again, wait for that video. But I personally don't mind. I love this book so much, so deeply. I had such a good time with it. Every single time that I read it, it's an experience because even though I know what happens, I forget everything that happens in this book because so much happens. Again, I love this. I think it's incredible. And if you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, wait until my Sayaka Murata video that I'm planning on posting. And last but not least, I have The Three of Us, which has kind of a rough story graph rating, but I genuinely don't understand why. And again, it's kind of my personal mission to get that rating higher because I think that this book is incredible, wildly underrated, and not really talked about. The Three of Us follows a husband and a wife and the wife's best friend and their relationship. And just like I said with the Rachel incident about it being like a friend who's catching you up on their drama, that's kind of how The Three of Us feels. These characters are messy. They are messy, messy, messy. And it is so fun to read. It's such a readable book, especially because it is really short. I think it's around like 182 pages. Basically, the wife's best friend and the husband hate each other with a passion for various and valid reasons. And the wife is trying to balance this a little bit, but it's also clear that like she has a preference, and it's also clear that like she doesn't really care that much about how these two people feel about each other. It's told through all of their perspectives, but it's only 3 chapters, so you only sit with them once and then you move on to the next person. And that storytelling tactic is so interesting because all of these people are unreliable in their own way. And so there will be a specific situation that you're reading about from the wife's perspective, and then you get to the husband's perspective and how he tells the story, and it's completely different. And you really have to try and piece together who is objectively in the right, but also who do I agree with. I find all 3 of these characters to be so fascinating and so compelling, if not because they're interesting, then because the actions that they do are just so batshit insane crazy. It is wild to read about. Again, I genuinely don't understand why this has a fairly low rating on Storygraph. I would highly, highly recommend it. Anyways, that is all of the books that I have for you guys today. Again, stay tuned for my video about Sayaka Murata. Stay tuned for my end of the year recap. There are some books that I loved that I didn't put in this just because I wanted to keep this video a bit more brief. But I am very excited about this channel. I'm very excited to be joining the BookTube space. I'm very excited to talk about my favorite books with y'all. I don't really know how to end this. If you liked these books or hated these books or want to read these books or don't want to read these books, you should like, comment, and subscribe. Also, if there's any books on here that you loved and you think I would like a book that is similar to it, also let me know. Again, I'm kind of in a reading slump right now and I desperately want to get out of it. So, happily taking recommendations. Anyways, love you guys and talk to you soon, I guess.